Today, we are going to talk about anchors or hyperlinks in HTML. The hyperlink is like a bridge that connects different web pages together, allowing users to navigate from one page to another simply by clicking on the linked text, image, or content block. The A tag, which is short for the anchor tag, is used to define a hyperlink. The anchor tag is a regular tag, so it requires both the opening part of the tag and the closing part of the tag, and everything that goes between the opening and the closing parts is the tag content or the link text, which is going to be displayed on the web page. The anchor tag has some tag-specific attributes, and one of them is a required attribute, which is the href attribute, as it holds the path to the destination point of the hyperlink. Utilizing different href attribute values, we can set hyperlinks of different types. For example, this hyperlink redirects the user to an external website with the absolute path. This hyperlink redirects the user to another page of the current website with the relative path. This hyperlink will show the user a specific part or a section of the current page. This hyperlink will open the default email app to send an email to a specific email address. And this hyperlink will start the default voice call app to make a call to a specific phone number. Let's now create some links in the Visual Studio Code editor. And as you remember, all the content we want to be displayed on the web page should be inside of the opening and the closing body tag. So let's create the first link, and for the href attribute value, I'm going to use the absolute path to the google.com page, which is https://google.com. For the text link, I'm going to use the go to Google text. Let's save the file, and we will see the link has appeared on the web page. Clicking this link, it will open the google.com page, which means that the anchor tag is set correctly and our hyperlink works. But in most of the cases, when you have a link that leads to an external website, you want this link to open in the new tab so that the initial tab is still available for the user to work with. To handle that, I'm going to utilize a different tag-specific attribute with the name of target. The initial value of the target attribute is _self, and this value tells the browser to open the destination link in the current browser tab. That's why even if you don't have the target attribute declared for the anchor tag, it will load the destination path in the current browser tab by default. To change this value and let the destination point be loaded in the new browser tab, we need to update this value to be blank. Once I save this, and when I click the Go to Google link on my web page, as you can see, it has created the new tab in the browser and loaded the destination point in the new tab, leaving the previous tab still available for the user to work with. To find all the available tag-specific attributes for the anchor tag, we need to find the documentation page for the anchor tag. And to do that, I'm going to open the Google search page and type a_mdn. And the first link here will be the link to the MDN Web Docs page, which is short for Mozilla Developer Network. Let's click this link. And on the documentation page, you will find some basic description of the anchor tag, then some interactive examples and the usage cases of the anchor tag, and then the list of all the attributes available for this tag. And in the list of the attributes, you will find the href attribute and the target attribute. And as you can see, the target attribute can have 4 values, where the _self is the default value, and the blank value will open the link in the new tab or in the new browser window. You can utilize the rest of the values depending on the task you have. The anchor tag is an inline element by default, which means that it is never going to break the line, and the width of the anchor element will always depend on the width of the content it holds. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to switch back to our working browser tab, and I'm going to duplicate the anchor element 10 to 12 more times. Once I save the file, you will see that every next link is trying to fit the same line with the previous link, which proves that it never breaks the line. Even if the line width is not enough to fit the anchor element, it will be split into two lines but still act as the same HTML element. Let's now inspect the first anchor element to check its width, and to do that I'm going to make a right click on the link text and click Inspect to open the Elements Inspector. Hovering the first anchor element shows us the hint box that says that the width of this element is 87.1 pixels. Hovering any next link shows us exactly the same width, and it happens because they hold the same content of the same width. Let's now update the content for the second link and add the additional Google word and see what happens with the width of the second element. The first one is still 87.1 pixels, but the second one is 138.2 pixels, which again proves that the width of the anchor element depends on the width of the content it holds. Let's now close the inspector and try to set some hyperlinks of different types in our HTML document. We have already set a hyperlink that redirects the user to an external website when clicked. Let's now set a link that will help us to redirect the user within the pages of the current project. And to do that, I first want to set the page heading for the index.html document, and it will say the main page. Then I want to save this file, and I want to create another file with the name of about-us.html. Any HTML file starts with setting the HTML boilerplate, and to do that I'm going to type the exclamation mark and hit the tab key. Now inside of the body I'm going to set the page heading for the current document, which will say about space us, and I'm going to save this file and switch back to the index.html. Now let's update the anchor element that will let us switch to the About Us HTML page when we click this link. So I will first remove the target attribute, and we need to update the href value. And now we are going to use what's called the relative paths. You don't have to understand how the relative paths are built at this moment. You just need to remember that in case both files are located in the same location or in the same folder, in other words, it's just enough to put the file name to the href attribute value to make it redirect the user to this page. So I will say about-us.html, and I'm going to update this text saying to about us page. Let's save the file, and we will see that the text of the link has updated, and if we click this link, it has redirected us to the About Us page that has a single page heading set. Now I want to set another link inside of the About Us HTML file that will redirect us back to the main page. And to do that, I'm going to declare a new link, and for the href attribute, I'm going to use the file name of index.html. And for the link text, I'm going to use back to main page text. Let's save this. Now we can see that we have this link in the About Us HTML page. Clicking this link will redirect us back to main page. And we have set something that looks like the in-project navigation here. We can go to the About Us page and we can move back to the main page. The next type of the hyperlinks we are going to set are those that trigger a system action to create a new email or to make a call to a specific phone number when clicked. And to do that, I'm going to switch back to the index.html, remove the contents of the body, and I will create a new anchor element. And for the link text, I'm going to use the email to, and then some fake email address. Let's use xxx@yyyy.zzz. Then to make this link to open the default email application, I'm going to copy this address, and for the value of the href attribute, I'm going to use the keyword of mail to and then the colon, and this is exactly the command that tells to open the system email application, and then I will paste the email, the fake email we have used. Now if I save the file, we will see this link here, and if I click this link, it will run my default system email application, and as you can see, the fake email is already inserted into the to field. Let's close the application, and let's set the second link that will actually trigger the default voice call application to show up. And I'm gonna set a blank anchor tag. Then for the text, I'm gonna say call to, and then I will use any random numbers here. I will copy the numbers, and then for the href attribute, I'm gonna use the keyword of tell colon, which makes or triggers the system action to open the default voice call application, and then I will paste the number. If I save this file and click the call to this phone number, it will ask me if I want to start my default voice call application, which is FaceTime, since I'm on a Mac, and I can either open FaceTime to start this call, or I can cancel this, and I will cancel this for sure. The last type of the hyperlinks we are going to discuss are those that will let the user to switch between the areas or the sections of the current web page. And this works best when we have enough content for the vertical scrolling to appear. So let's add some content, and I will start with creating a section, and then inside of this section I will create the section heading saying section title, and then 3 paragraphs of text. Each will have 100 of words. So let's say Lauren 100 here, and then save, and then I will duplicate the paragraph 2 times, and then I will duplicate the section 2 more times to have 3 sections in the current page. Let's save the file, and you will see that we have 3 sections. Each one has 3 paragraphs. Each paragraph has 100 words, and we have this vertical scrolling bar, which means that we can actually create a link that will scroll down to the second section when clicked. So to track this second section, I want to update the heading for the section saying this is a section to scroll to. And for the section element, I need to set the ID we will use for the href attribute in the link, and I will set the ID value to be section -2 scroll -2. Looks good. So now I want to copy this ID value and create a hyperlink that will actually make this scroll event, right? So before the section here, I will declare an anchor tag, and for the text of the link, I will say scroll to a section, actually scroll to the second section, right? And then for the href attribute, I'm going to use the hash symbol and then paste the ID of this section we need to scroll to. Now, if I save this file, we will see this link. I'm going to decrease the height of the browser so that we can actually see this action. And once I click this link, it's gonna scroll me to the section we wanted it to scroll to, which says this is a section to scroll to. Another usage case of such hyperlinks is when we want to create a link that will actually scroll to top. And again, we need to define an element be in the top of the page that will have the ID we will use for the href attribute, right? So I'm gonna create the header element here, and I will assign an ID of header to this header. Now I can use this ID for the hyperlink in the bottom of the page to scroll up to the top. So after the last section, I will create the anchor tag and say back to top for the link text, and for the href attribute, I'm gonna use the hash symbol and then paste the ID of the header. Once I save this, and if I scroll down to the bottom, we will see this back to top link here. Once I click it, it will scroll us back to the top of the page. Let's now clean up the project and discuss the valid children of the anchor tag and the valid parents of the anchor tag. The first thing I want to do is I want to check which content categories the anchor tag belongs to, and I want to check out the anchor tag documentation page and scroll down to the technical summary table of the anchor tag. Here in the content categories section, we can see that the anchor tag belongs to flow content, phrasing content, and interactive content, which means that any HTML element that supports these content types as their permitted content will be considered to be valid parents for the anchor tag. Let's create a new anchor tag inside of the body tag. I'm going to use the go to Google phrase for the link text, And for the href attribute, I'm going to set the absolute path to the google.com page. Let's now save the file and switch to the document tab to make sure the link is being displayed on the web page. The permitted content for the body tag includes the flow content type, and the anchor tag belongs to the flow content type, which makes the body tag to be a valid parent for the anchor tag. The next HTML element I'm going to test is the heading1 element, which represents the page heading. The permitted content for the heading1 is the phrasing content, and the anchor tag belongs to the phrasing content type 2, which makes the heading1 a valid parent for the anchor tag. Let's now paste the link inside of the heading1 and switch to the document browser tab to make sure the second link is being displayed on the page. The next parent we are going to discuss is the paragraph text. I'm going to add a message of 20 words inside of the paragraph, and I'm going to save the document and paste the link somewhere in the middle of the paragraph text. Now, once I save the file, we will see that the link became the part of this text, since the anchor tag is an inline element and it is never going to break the line. Let's also test the unordered list to be a valid parent of the anchor tag, and I'm gonna paste the link inside and save the file. As you can see, my W3C validator is not happy with that move, saying that the element A not allowed as child of the element UL, and it happens because the permitted content of the unordered list is 0 or more LI elements. Let's add one LI element here, and let's move the link inside of the LI element. Now, if I save the file, my validator is happy because the LI element has the permitted content type of flow content, and the anchor tag belongs to the flow content. And the last element we are going to test is the table element. So the permitted content of the table element is either the t-body, t-foot, t-head, or the tr elements. So if I paste the link inside of the table tag and save the file, my validator will say that this HTML is invalid because the anchor tag is not a valid child of the table, or the table is not a valid parent for the anchor tag. Let's now create a valid tag instead, and I will create the t-body tag here, and I will paste the link inside of the t-body. Let's save the file. The validator still says that this is an invalid HTML because the t-body supports only the tr tags as the valid children. Let's create another valid child for the t-body tag, which is the tr tag, and paste the link inside. Let's save the file. The validator is not happy because the permitted content of the tr tag are the td tags, which is the table data cells, or the th tags, which are the table header cells. Let's create both the td tag and paste the link inside, and the th tag and paste the link inside. Now, if I save the file, the validator is happy and it says that this HTML is valid because both the td and the th have the flow content as the permitted content type, and the anchor tag belongs to the flow content type. Let's now talk about the valid children of the anchor tag. Following the documentation, the permitted content of the anchor tag is the transparent content type, which basically means that any HTML element can be a valid child of the anchor tag with a couple of exceptions. And the exception number 1 is another anchor tag. Exception number 2 is an element of interactive content type. So let's now actually try to put the link inside of another link. So I'm going to copy this link, paste it beneath the table, and replace the link text with another link. Let's now save the file to see what happens next. Once I save the file, my W3C validator will actually tell me that this HTML is invalid. Let's now try to add an interactive element to our web page. And one of the interactive elements in HTML is the select element, which allows the users to choose an option from the drop-down list. So I'm going to create the first option with the content of first, and then I will create another option with the content of second. Once I save the file and open the tab in the browser that we work with, you will see this element has appeared on the page, and clicking this element, it will allow us to switch between the options, to set the second or to move back to the first option. But once I move this select element inside of the anchor tag and save the file, you will see that clicking this element will redirect me to the google.com instead of letting me to switch between options. So the basic action set for the select element doesn't work as expected anymore. More than that, my W3C validator tool actually tells me that this HTML is not valid. Let's now remove the invalid HTML from our page and go back to the page in the browser. So let's try to add some valid children to the anchor tag. So I'm going to copy paste this anchor element beneath the table, and I want to add the heading 1 element. The heading 1 is of flow content type, and the permitted content of the anchor tag is the transparent content type, which includes the flow content. So the heading 1 is a valid child of the anchor tag. Let's add the content of some title here and save the document. So as you can see, we have this heading 1 represented as a link with the action set on this heading to move to the google.com page when clicked. So the other type of the valid child for the anchor tag is a paragraph tag, because the paragraph is of type of flow content, and the permitted content of the anchor tag is a transparent content type. So we can say the paragraph, and then we can set some random text of 20 words here. Let's save the file, and we will see that the paragraph appeared on the page. And again, since the paragraph is wrapped by the anchor tag, the whole paragraph is just a single link to the google.com. If I click this link, it will move us to the destination path. So we can also add the unordered list inside of the anchor tag. Let's do that. So I'm gonna add another link and then type the UL for the unordered list, then the LI for the list item, saying first option here. Let's save the file. As you can see, it works. The validator is happy. This is a valid HTML. And the combination of valid elements can also be a valid child or valid children of the anchor tag. So if I copy this paragraph and paste it beneath the heading 1 inside of the first link, you will see that the paragraph was added and they act like a single anchor element. So they have the same link to the same destination. Before we move to the next topic to discuss, I want to remove all the unnecessary content on this page and save it to make sure we have this single link to be displayed on the page. Let's now talk about the common issues that happen really often when working with the anchor tag. The issue number 1 is that developers sometimes forget to provide the anchor tag with the tag content. So let me remove this Go to Google phrase and save the file. You will see that nothing is displayed here, right? And inspecting the page, we will actually see that the anchor tag was added to the body, but it has no content. So hovering this anchor element will show us the hint saying that the width and the height of this element is 0 by 0. So there is no content for this tag and there is nothing to display. So make sure you provide the link with the tag content all the time. The next issue is the incorrect spelling of the attribute names. Let me remove this R from the href attribute name and save the file. So you will now see that my link is not active now. I can click this link. Inspecting the body will actually show that the anchor tag is there inside of the body, but for some reason it doesn't work as expected. And my W3C validator tool was smart enough to detect the issue and tell me that the attribute of href is not allowed on the element A. So fixing the name of the attribute will actually resolve this issue. And the last issue developers might meet is not closing the anchor tag correctly. So let me add the paragraph of text, and I will add the text of 20 words after the anchor tag and save the file. So we now have this paragraph and it acts like any regular paragraph. But if I remove the closing anchor tag, it becomes the part of the anchor. Why does this happen? Let's inspect the body of the document. We will see that the browser was trying to actually resolve the issue or the syntax inconsistency and it has dynamically added the closing anchor tag, but it has added it after all the content on the page. So now both the paragraph and the go to Google phrase are the children of the anchor tag. So please make sure to have the closing tag for the anchor tag. This will resolve this issue.